10 on, what do you figure that to be? And me being 55. He said, well, but you were working at 10? I said, well, I didn't actually start working 40 hours a week till about 82 on the books. Not always did Dad and I agree on things, being that together that much. I will tell this story on him, and me, I guess. We were having one of these heated discussions, and the employees know when we have one of those, it's an argument between father, son, and employee boss arguments, they generally wander to the warehouses. And we look around, and we're the only one in the facility that's 60 by 180 or somewhere thereabouts. But we were talking that day, and I said something about, he said, this is the way we're going to do it, Jim. I said, no, Dad, we need to do it this way. And he wanted to know what made me so damn smart. I said, didn't you teach me everything you knew? He said, I sure tried to. I said, well, not only did I learn everything that you taught me, Dad, but I said, you paid for my college, and I learned a couple things on my own, therefore made me smarter than you. He said, now, I'll never make that mistake twice. And from that day forward, he always said he only taught me what he wanted me to know. So it made him smarter than me. You know, most everybody here knows us from being in Kentucky. So many things went on prior to Kentucky and Michigan and places. I'll skip around in some of my notes that I have, and just because it seemed like it flows well. In Michigan, from time to time, I'd come home and there'd be a real nice shirt, a real nice pair of slacks, some underwear, a t-shirt, socks, and shoes laying on a table or counter or something along that line. And I'd say, man, thank you, Mom, Dad, for buying me clothes. I mean, it wasn't my birthday, wasn't nothing. No, honey, that's not for you. And I said, what do you mean not for me? And he said, well, that was for Boyd Jung. Boyd Jung was a young man that lived in Greenville, South Carolina, in an orphanage. Dad taught me early on to give. Little did I know that's what they were doing at that time. And I think my brother and sister both testified that in what she's saying and giving. I had a big-hearted father, very hearted father. When we came here, me and Dad came 2 or 3, 4 months before Mom, Bridget, and Tim came. We stayed at, most people know Aunt Stella, my grandma and my grandpa, C.H. Mills, which is Tim's namesake, and Mama Stella, which was my dad's family. And so I went to work right away. As he went over there, I wasn't starting school, so I kind of liked that real well. We were out of school, it was summer and all that good stuff, so I started early on going to work for Dad. And the men, we had them, back then we had a wooden bed truck. I was showing some pictures to Morgan the other night, and she said, what is that? A billboard going? I said, no, honey. We had a wooden truck bed that we delivered furniture in. And the men I sat in the middle, we always had 2 men, and I'd be the one to change the gears. And so that's the way that went on. And as a young age, I was only old enough to carry the voltmeter, which is what tracks electricity and continuity and so forth. And we were, I happened to go on every call with the men because I just wanted to learn. That's what Dad taught me, just learn. He said, learn everything you can because I ain't always going to be there to help you along. So I tried. And guy come in one day and come in the store, and it was on a Saturday. And the guy said, James, I need this refrigerator fixed. You got to send somebody to fix my refrigerator for the weekend. He said, well, my serviceman's not working day. And I was sitting over always on Saturdays. I put all the bicycles, wagons, and back then we were the Walmarts, before the Walmarts was Walmart. And the men would put them, my employees would all put them off to the weekend because they hated putting them together. Well, I just loved it because I thought I was learning something. And he said, well, send that boy over. And said, he can do it. He said, that boy's just 13 years old. He said, well, he can't drive. He said, well, that's fine. I'll just take him and bring him back. He said, well, he can't fix it. No way. He said, yeah, he's fixed it the last 2 times. Something's tore up the house. He looks at me and says, Jim, is that that? I said, yeah, Dad, it is. And I really don't know if he took me and brought me back or when we closed the store, Dad took me. But I just think that's funny. And after Dad's first heart attack, I don't even know how many years ago that's been, a lot of people may take offense to it, and I apologize, but Dad was called many things, and a lot of times I'd call him old man. And a lot of people would call him old man. Meant nothing whatsoever disrespectful in any way. Bill Patterson, after Mr. Lennon had gone away, the Shell station downtown, Glenn Sexton and Bill Patterson run the show down there. And any time Dad got hurt, was sick, I meant, he never wanted me to go visit him in the hospital regardless where he was at. He always wanted me home resting because he expected me to do twice as much work the next day. And I tried. And when I got there, I never went nowhere when he was gone, but I went to the Shell station that did all our mechanic work. And Bill asked me, he said, Jim, how's the old man? I said, well, you know the old man. He's doing fine. Everything's great. He's going to pull out of this one, Bill. And I said, the doctor told us that the back part of his heart was hardened or dead. And I said, he told us that if any place you're going to have a heart attack, he said, that's where you want it. Because he said it's the least harmed or whatever you want to call it. And I said, well, you know the old man. And there'd been a guy pacing back and forth. I really didn't pay much attention. I was just talking to Bill, and these 4 or 5 other guys were saying. The guy said, I'll tell you one thing. One of my boys called me old man. When he woke up the next week, he would know to never call me that again. I looked him in the eye and realized he was serious. And I looked at him and I said, well, all I can say is that my brother and I have a more loving relationship than you and your boys do because we can call our dad anything and he still loves us. And that's true. One other little small story, I guess. Stony Fork, that guy was a customer to the day he died. His family is still customers of us. Good old man. He was a bootlegger back in the day. And they kept it secret, but some of us had to know it because we kept the refrigerators cold and everything else going. So I was one of them guys that knew where there was all that. And we was up Stony Fork, and that was before cell phones and everything. And we called the store on. Luckily, somebody had a phone up that way. Most people didn't even have phones back then. Called the store, being 2 of the men, and said, was there anything else you needed? We was way up in Stony Fork because you didn't want to make them trips off. And back then, it seemed a whole lot further than it is today. And he said, yes, this guy's got a washer I sold him 2 days ago. It's tore up. And I said, well, we'll go by and look at it. And I told the men, I said, we'll get our voltmeter and stuff. Didn't have one. We didn't even have a toolbox with us. We pulled the seat back, and we had a pair of wire pliers. And the guys knew where it was at because they delivered and we delivered. And so we go there and knock on the door and told him where it's at. And he looks at me, and just as we walk in the door, he says, and my men never did really fool him much unless it was just move something for me because, again, I was really young. And he said, what's wrong with it? When we walked in his house, I said, well, I don't know. Well, before I could get to the back porch, is where the automatic washer was, he went from a ringer washer to this automatic. He said, you sent this guy, Pooping Yeller, over here to fix my washer. Said, but he can't do this. He said, that's a kid you sent to fix that machine. And Dad said, well, give that kid a minute. Let's see if he can fix that. And lo and behold, a pair of wire pliers, I can't even remember what was wrong with it, fixed his machine. To the day the man died, he never knew my name. He called me wire plier. That's true. My dad in later years, this last few years, I guess, my men will attest to it. Anybody that washed his truck knew this. He didn't keep one roll of paper towels in his truck. He had to keep two, because somebody always got one of them. So he had to have two. And toilet paper, you had to have a roll hitting your truck, because you never knew when you had to go. Martha, if his doctor was here, she'd testify to the day he died. He was asking for toothpicks, and he wanted lotion, and he asked for Q-tips all the time. He said, if you've been through what I've been through, you'd understand why I want lotion. I'm itching all over. I bought Debbie from my barber, bought him one of them pumps, scalp massagers, and one day before we went in the last hospital, I took him and massaged his back for him one time, scratched his back, we call it. And he said, you don't have to do it, you don't have to do it, you don't have to do it. I said, well, I want to do it, Dad. And I did. He said, oh, man, that's pretty good stuff. And I went over, I said, give it a minute, I'm getting on. I said, right there's where Debbie, oh yeah, that's the spot. Just do what Debbie told you to do. He said, I just can't repay you like Debbie does, he said. And, oh Lord. One of the last conversations we had as far as talking and going, me and Dad, we always went out to eat. We called it our bonding time. We were supposed to not talk about business, but that was basically all we talked about. I took him to Taco Bell in Middlesboro, and I lost Dad for a few minutes. I didn't know where he was at. And I knew he went to the bathroom. I went there first and ordered the food and was waiting on him to come out. I go in the bathroom, and this is when I really realized he was bad. He was looking around. When he was looking around, I said, Dad, what are you doing? He said, they're out of paper towels. And he said, there's a spot on the faucet. He needed to wipe the spot off before he left. I said, Dad, they got people that does this, that pays this. If we're going to do this, we're going to get free free tacos for the rest of our life. They said, we're not going to do this. And we hurried up. Mom and Debbie was going somewhere. And so we hurried home to get home that night. And we were sitting down. Dad always sat in the garage. People live up RJ realized Dad would sit there and just watch people go by and this and that and other, enjoy the fresh air. And he decided he was going to wash he was a clean freak here toward the end, ain't Gene? You appreciate that. He was going to hose off the driveway. I saw no harm in that. Well, he gets to washing, he's doing, and I was at one of my lowest points at that time, strength-wise. And I was sitting in the chair just watching him do his thing, doing what he loved best. And he was about 10 or 12 feet from the driveway, from the garage. And he started falling. It was all I could do to get up. I tried to fall underneath him. I couldn't get under him to keep him from falling. He flat, right face first, right on the concrete. And I said, Lord, I've killed my dad twice. And I rolled him over. Again, I ain't strong as water. I couldn't do nothing. I rolled him over and blood was all running down his face. Blood was all on his arm. I said, Lord, I got to get him cleaned up. Mom, I didn't know what time he's coming home. I said, they come in and he said, somebody goes by, they'll think I beat my daddy to death out here. And so I go in, I said, are you all right sitting there? Yeah, I'm fine, he said. I said, okay. I said, well, let me go in there and get a rag. And I grabbed the first rag there I got and wet it and tried to clean him up and realized it wasn't hardly, blood has a way of scaring everybody. And I daubed him up and got him cleaned up, and he looked pretty good considering the way he did look. And somebody said, how did he look? I said, well, like he was in Michigan and one of them brawls and about 8 of them was dead. Some of you guys will get that. The rest of them won't. But like I said, I had a whole bunch. We condensed a lot of them, okay?